Okay, my couture crafters, let's get right into this hinge system. This video is going to show you just the last finishing details of how I put together the baby book. So we are doing the hidden hinge binding system right now by Kathy Orta, but it was customized by Kona Raven, whose pattern is what I used to actually make the baby album. I've been doing the hidden hinge system for so long. It comes pretty easily to me now, and it looks complicated with all the measurements and things. However, once you do it one time, I believe you'll be able to customize it to your needs too. It's not too difficult. I actually ended up scrapping the one that you see here. I scrapped this and the cover because it just wasn't big enough. I needed to increase it for me to be comfortable with the way that the baby album was laying. So now I increased all of my gussets to a 1/2 inch as opposed to customizing each page to what I thought and it was anticipating, and I thought, no, I'll just redo it. So I scrapped this, but when I did do it, I did it the exact same way. I just increased the gusset size. So here I'm putting down some double-sided tape and putting the hinge together. It's an accordion kind of fold, mountains and valleys. Again, very, very simple. This is the paper that I'm using to cover the chipboard cover. I'm using my Fiskars trimmer to cut it. Easy peasy like butter. It cut through that fabric and that paper with no problem at all. This is paper backed denim. Those white squares that you see on that chipboard there are double-sided tape. I have it in various sizes. So I'm just gonna peel that up. And you see it's exposing that double-sided tape and plop down that denim. What I like about that denim is that when you place it next to itself, watch the seam disappear. Isn't it nice? Perfect. I didn't put the denim on perfectly straight, so I was checking that corner to make sure that it would actually cover. You don't need it to be perfect because once you put down your matting, it will cover that up. I'm using a pen blade knife and a corner mitering tool that I got off of Etsy just to go on ahead and clean up those corners. So now I'm going to take off the excess there. I'm going to cut it down to the tape. You want your tape pretty much to be right at the edge. So I'm going to do the bottom first and just train the paper to know that it's going to fold. And although this is sped up, I really took my time. This is my favorite part of putting together a mini album, is doing a cover. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it comes out perfect every time. It's just amazing how it works, in my opinion. So there I am training the paper and just pulling it up. Going slowly, making sure that it's got a tight fold, a tight crease there, so that the cover looks perfect. And then when you're doing the edges, you need to fold it kind of like you do a present. So you need to tuck in those edges. I just use my bone folder and tuck them in, and then I fold them over using my work surface to guide it, just to give it really, really tight coverage. So I fold it towards myself and then push it away, and it just folds right over, and then you have a perfect cover. Here I'm paper piecing. This is what I really call couture crafting. This is when you are putting every little piece down yourself. Some of these pieces are less than 1/8 of an inch, and you're hand doing every single piece. You're gonna see my head several times in the shots because you have to get over it in order to center it. Do the drinking game. Every time you see my head, take a shot. But I'm using a combination of vinyl and paper here. I think it gives some texture, some interest. Vinyl on paper makes things just look more luxurious. So I really enjoy using that combination. And so here we're using the transfer paper and the paper piecing. All this paper is just cardstock by Recollections, nothing special, 65-pound weight. I think I used 110 pound for the base, that black base that's sitting at the top of the screen, just to give it some sturdiness. Plus I had to put magnets on it. I like to put magnets for closures for boxes and albums. I think that's kind of something that's my style. Now you're watching me knock off a die by Ellen Hudson. I saw Sandy Alnuck do a YouTube video with a card that she used using the die by Ellen Hudson, and I liked it so much, but it was just too small. I don't make traditional size cards, so usually dies are not helpful in that sense, you know, for actual cards and things like that. So I decided that I was going to try to duplicate it, a larger version, to meet my needs. And I did. I could have done the whole thing in Design Space, which is design software that I'm more familiar with, but I played with Shortcuts a lot, version 5 a little bit too. So this is me referencing the video. I go back and forth, watching it to just make sure that everything is lined up and that I'm actually doing this properly. It took me the first cut I had to scrap because it wasn't right. You'll see me struggle. And then I do another one that came out perfect, and that's the one that I ended up keeping and using. I suggest you guys watch people work. This right here might look like a bunch of nothing, but really it helps. It helps watching people. You will learn something that you didn't know, even watching it on a fast play like this. Especially if you understand Design Space software, you're gonna see something and be like, I would never thought to do it like that. Sometimes I just sit and watch YouTube videos sped up just to kind of see what people are doing. And I'm getting ready to cut that black square out of another square to layer it on top. If you get a chance, watch Sandy Alnuck's video and then come back and watch this part of what I'm doing. And you'll see that I was able to knock off that die pretty much exactly. I just blew it up, made it bigger. And I used my Cricut to write the words at the bottom instead of stamping it. That is probably my least used function on the Cricut that I really need to start using more, is that pen. I need to use it more. I use it, but I probably need to use it more and get more familiar with the writing fonts versus the cutting fonts, yada, yada, yada. Here you see me tweaking and playing to see if it's gonna work. It doesn't. I needed to cut that box larger. I needed to line it up a little different. And I use pink paper because pink paper is scrap paper in my house. I don't like pink. So if it comes in a set with a Recollections pack, that's probably gonna be scrap paper. So you see the paper's a little darker. This is the one that worked. It was my second cut. I was able to line that puppy up. And there we go, I got it. And then you pull it, got a rainbow. Yay! Very pleased with this. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to do it, but I was. I knew that I needed a pull on the box, and I wasn't sure how I was going to do that. I didn't love the way that Kathy did hers, which was just a ribbon at the top, but her box was also much, much smaller than mine. I saw Kathy's box, which is what inspired this project, and I resized it to my needs. So I went to Home Depot, in the hardware section, grabbed a drawer pull, and I painted it with alcohol ink, which is what you're watching me do now. And I just grabbed some blues, and alcohol ink dries within seconds, so you'll able to touch it and manipulate it and all of that right after you've colored it. Now I'm making a template so that I can figure out where to put it on the box, and that's where I decided. So then I grabbed my old school Crop-A-Dile. You can see that it's orange and not blue, and I was able to reach way down into that box. That's why a Crop-A-Dile is a good tool to have, is because it's got that reach. Screw those puppies in, and now I have a drawer. So if you look inside the box, you would have seen all that brown, and we don't want to see that brown. We want to cover that up. So one of the ways of doing the brown in the corners is to make hinges. It's also a way of constructing boxes. So I just grabbed some scrap lavender paper, folded it in half, and now I'm putting it in the corners. I'm using that old Scotch glue, and I got old because now I will be using that art glitter glue from here on out. So you just stick it in the corners. What I don't like about this glue is, although it dries fast and it gives you a little bit of working time, the glue doesn't dry clear. It dries glossy. It doesn't dry matte clear. And so I no longer have a need for it. Art glitter has replaced most of my glues, other than like my wood glue and my fabric glue, even though I chose to use art glitter glue on fabric, and it did work. But I think you still need to have some fabric glue around. And so this is me just lining the box. And you see in the corners, you see lavender paper and not that brown. That's true couture crafting in my opinion. All right, so I needed a little saying or something to go on the front. Although this isn't a baby album stack, some of them worked. So I just put Live Life Colorfully on the front of that box. I lined that belly band with denim and vinyl just to make it more sturdy. This is me paper piecing again. If you see that duck's eye, I actually used art glitter and the dot is paper onto that vinyl and it worked like a dream. I'm so impressed with that art glitter glue. I suggest everybody get a bottle and order it from Amazon so that you get the set and the little nozzle and little pin that comes with it. Don't judge my Copic coloring. I tried to do exactly what Sandy Alnock did on her video because she's a coloring specialist. This is what she does. She's about that drawing and coloring life. So I tried it and I really like the colors. And I learned that you can layer colors that are opposite on the color spectrum, on the color wheel, on top of each other to just darken a color, add a little depth. I would have never put that orange, yellow, purple combination together until watching her work. So again, hang out on YouTube, guys. You will learn things. So in Sandy Alnock's video, she Copic colored the base, but that would have just been using up too much Copic ink in my opinion. So I decided to grab my oxides. I chose oxides instead of the dyes because oxides blend easier, and I wanted this to go quickly. They're not as vibrant in my opinion, but they will blend like a dream, and they just didn't take a lot of time. What's that? Is that my logo on a stamp set? Yes. Regina Easter hooked me up from the Cutting Cafe, and she was able to make my logo into a 2-step stamp. The black over there was just a little too plain, so I stamped it using some Concord and 9th Turnabout Star stamp set. Now I'm adding glitter, and then I decided I wanted to add a little bit more, so I took my souffle gel pens, started them on some scratch paper, and just put some little dots all around. Easy peasy. Now for just a little more decoration in the album, I chose to do a couple of titles on various pages. This title I think came from Treasure Box Designs, which I like, but it took a little bit longer than I wanted to spend on decorating this album, so I chose to do 2 steps for all the rest. So what you're looking at now is a Cricut file, and it's just 2 steps, as vinyl and then the paper. It was less work and just a little easier. So that's also from Cricut. Matter of fact, all the rest of the ones that you see are just in Design Space. I left this album kind of blank so that the recipient can add her own touch to it. I don't like when people have sweet baby, I'm not sweet baby, but bath time and stuff like that, because then you have to have a bath picture. So this gives her the opportunity to customize it to her needs. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, and I hope you watch the final review of the album. Thanks again.